Alright, how's it going, guys? We are here for another upgrading Crucible video. Things have changed a bit, so I figured I'd remake it and do it a little different this time than we normally do. So, there's a couple routes that you can take, primary routes. Not saying that these are the only two ways of doing it, but these are the primary two routes you can go. First, you're going to want to start with ceramic. For anybody that doesn't already know, ceramic is one of the most efficient crucibles in the game. Just because a crucible has a higher temp does not mean that it's going to be your best crucible to use, because if you're worried about fuel efficiency, a denser crucible, which you can tell the denseness by looking at the contains materials, F3H, while you're not in your inventory screen, will turn that on. You have to hold them down at the same time. You'll see the W636, that is the weight of the crucible. So that gives you the denseness of it, and that is factored into the amount of fuel that it's going to take to heat it up. It will heat up slower, but it will retain its heat longer, and it will retain its heat when you add things into it. But because it takes longer to heat up, it's still more efficient to use a lower temp whenever possible. So there is another crucible that you can use. It's a quartz crucible that was added for early game crystallization. So you may want to check that out. It's a little bit more efficient, but it's got a lower temperature, overall melting down temperature. Let's see, so it's this one right here. It melts down at 2482, but its weight is only 604 versus the ceramic, which is 636 and melts down at 2500. Personally, I don't see the little bit of efficiency being worth the loss in overall heat, especially when you're doing things like steel. Now, if you're doing like copper, brass, bronze, things like that that aren't going to get anywhere near 2000, absolutely, probably a good choice. But these are the first ones you're going to make. They're just made out of a clay crucible, which is any kind of clay, a rolling pin, and a knife. A rolling pin is literally just made out of wood. You can make other ones, but just two sticks and a plank with a file or a knife, and you have your basic rolling pin, and the knife is literally a piece of flint and a stick in your inventory. There's millions of other ones you can make, but you can make a flint one, you can make an obsidian one if you have an obsidian rock. There's the flint. You can use bone handles, any sticks, you name it. So very easy to get your first crucible. Also, the molds for it are really simple to make now. You used to have to either know the recipe or find a book that would tell you, or cheat it in, or look at a wiki. Well, now Greg has made it to where all of the clay-only molds can be pressed. It also kind of shows you the chisel pattern. If you can see those little textures, maybe turn up your video settings so they're a little bit bigger if you need them. But that's the exact patterns for all of them, and that way you actually know what all exists. But like the plate one, which is the main one you're going to need, it's literally just a clay mold and a plank, or a pane of glass will work as well, or any metal. For any of the tools, like the pickaxe one, you can use a wooden vanilla pickaxe, You can use a wood GregTech pickaxe head, or you can use a pickaxe you already have and it'll take one of the crafting uses off of it. It will not use the whole thing. If you use like the wood ones or the head ones, it will eat the entire thing. But hey, it's a wood pickaxe head. Who really cares? And that's for any of the tools. For rods, it's literally just a stick pressed in it. And yes, same goes for the plank of wood you use or the glass you use to make the plate one. It will absorb the material you're pressing into it. Basically, think of it as you had to chip the wood back out after you pressed it in to not mess up the clay, because clay is kind of easy to meld. I think that's the right word for it. But anyways, your next one after that should be, in my opinion, one of these two, and I would go with Meteoric Steel. Now, this is where the biggest change has come in, is that we now have ancient debris that can be found in the nether randomly. It's worth 2.25, where it used to be worth 2.25. So it will only take you about 6 of these to make the crucible and the mold, where before it took 48 of them. Same goes for the meteorites. So it used to take 48 meteorites, and now it takes 5 or 6. Also, when you find these, you don't have to pick up every rock. You can use a magnifying glass on them, which will tell you, looks like it fell from the sky. And then you can even shift click and it'll pick it up. Although I would not suggest doing that. I would suggest getting yourself an Efren pick and break it with that, and you have a chance of it giving you extras because of the fortune on the Efren pick. Now, you can use any pick that has fortune. I just find Efren is to be the best go-to early game fortune. It's only fortune 2, but it's good enough to give you a little bit of fortune. There's also Solarium, but that's really low durability. Efren is 50,000, so it's not that horrible. There are also these big meteorites that can spawn randomly as rocks. And when you crush these, which they can be fortuned as well, when you crush them, they actually give you 4 of them rather than just 2. So you end up with 4 out of 1 rather than just 2.25. And the great thing about those is the byproducts are nickel, iridium, and platinum. So really good finding these big meteorites. Also, for anybody that didn't know it, meteorite tools are also inherently magnetic. So any extra ones you find, or after you're done with your meteoric steel crucible, you can melt it down, make you a pickaxe, and then you'll have a magnetic pickaxe. It'll automatically pick stuff up for you rather than dropping it in the world and you have to pick it up yourself. Great for using over lava, and then you don't have to be a noob and use a construction pickaxe for mining like somebody I know. The reason why I choose to go with meteoric steel versus netherite takes like 4 pieces of gold for every unit of netherite, where this is just literally using a steel setup like this one right here, just cranking up the pour a little bit because it pours hotter than regular steel, but it can be done in that auto smelter right there. Then after you get one of these 2, then you need to go to niobium. Niobium and tantalum can be found in an ore called Tantalite. Now, before recently, the only way you could get Tantalite ore was in red granite, which needed a level 3 pick, and it only spawned rarely as it's part of a uranium vein, but you could find them higher up where there was no uranium in there. So it's just Tantalite, which is kind of sparse in there. It's a little painful mining it out that way. But recently Greg has added a ore vein that has Tantalite in it that spawns with, I do believe it's between limestone and quartzite, and it has kayanite in it and lepidolite and spodumene. So it makes the Tantalite ore way easier to get that way and way more common. Now, what you're going to want to do with that Tantalite ore is wash it. I would definitely suggest having a crusher to double your ore and a sluice, probably a centrifuge as well before you do this, because the byproducts off of the Tantalite is pyrolusite, great for manganese for stainless steel, niobium, and tantalum. So you may get away with, I normally do, getting enough Tantalite that I don't even have to smelt down the Tantalite. I just use the byproducts that I get as tantalum. If we look in the sluice here, you have 3% chance, or 3% chances at niobium, tantalum, and the pyrolusite. Now the really good one is when you get the Tantalite this way, then you put it into the centrifuge and you get a 10% chance at 9 pyroluse, niobium, and tantalum there. It used to be a guaranteed, now it's like a 90% chance basically. So you'll get a lot more of them out of here than you will the sluice, but if you run them both, win-win. And then you also have your magnetic separator, which gives you pyrolusite, tantalite, so you won't get your niobium and you won't get your tantalum in there. But if you're looking for the pyrolusite, it may be a decent idea for you there, or getting extra of the tantalite, you know, whatever your choice is. But I would definitely have the sluice and the centrifuge so you can get all the byproducts. Now you can hand wash it if you really want to rush to these two in the crucible. It is possible you will get tiny piles out of there, but the cauldron gives less than what the sluice does. I would definitely go to that. For most part, you won't need niobium or tantalum crucibles unless you're going for a tungsten one, and that would be the last one in this series, would be your tungsten, because niobium can smelt tantalum and tantalum can smelt tungsten. Now, on the other side, you have, again, starting with your ceramic, then you will go to chromium, then you have to go to iridium. Now, chromium is not too hard to get. You can find chromite ore and just smelt that in a regular ceramic crucible and you'll get chromium. Also, if you're somebody that doesn't want to make a smelter and wants to rush aluminum, chromium is acid proof, just like the stainless steel one is. So you can use it for melting down your aluminum fluoride for making aluminum. But anyways, your iridium crucible is next. Now you will notice I have a level 3 Ephraim pick and a level 4 titanium gold. One of the worst parts about the iridium crucible isn't how hard it is to get the iridium, it's the fact that a level 3 pick will not pick it up. So if you don't think about that, you sit it on your burning box after you break your chrome one, you're going to have to move the burning box until you make an iridium pickaxe to pick it up. Or like I have here, titanium gold or tungsten carbide. So be careful with that with the iridium one. Also, there is only a 7-degree buffer between these two for melting down. Luckily, iridium is really dense, so that 7 degrees goes up really slow depending on what burning box you're using. I've got plenty of streams if you want to see it done. I usually go for liquid so I can put in the 12, heat it up, and quickly shut it off. You can also use a thermometer to automatically shut it off if you're using like creosote in a liquid burning box, or you can use raw oil, you can use ethanol, any of those liquid fuels that you can pump into it would be good if you're trying to do this. But remember, you got to move the burning box unless you have a level 4 pick. And then after your iridium one, then you'll go to the niobium and then the tantalum. So the big difference here is the fact that you don't have to use chromium. You can use meteoric steel. And the huge one is no iridium. Also, if you notice, there are only 4 in this line. There are 5 in this one because that one counts. Like I said, there are other options. Like if you have Twilight Forest, there's also a fiery steel one that can be used. The fiery steel, again, takes level 4. So you're not going to be breaking that with a regular pickaxe. It says it melts down at 20, the material melts at 2934, but to make fiery steel, all you have to do is get the fiery blood and bathe an iron plate in it, and it'll give you fiery steel. You do not have to melt it to make it. If you have any questions about where to get fiery blood, leave me a comment and I'll explain it to you. I figure most of you probably already know. But that is another option if you want to go that route. It doesn't melt down till 3637, where the iridium one melts down at 3398. So you could get away with bypassing the chrome crucible and the iridium crucible just by doing some questing through the Twilight Forest and use a fiery steel one. Another option is niobium tantalum. That one though will take, or niobium titanium, sorry, but that will take niobium and titanium, so you're going to have to do titanium processing to get this. It's not the easiest thing to set up before you have a smelter. It is completely possible though. It's just 1 niobium, 1 titanium. Temperatures 2345. So again, this one could take the place of the chrome and the iridium because it does not melt down until 2931, and I do believe 2750 is what you need for niobium. So you can completely bypass the chrome and the iridium if you choose to go for titanium before tungsten. And if you're interested, I have a video on how to get titanium, except I use a smelter. Titanium is literally the last of the 3, as I call them, gated materials. You have tungsten, aluminum, titanium. And in any GregTech before now, it went aluminum, titanium, tungsten, but I find it way easier to progress through if you do tungsten first, then aluminum, then titanium. And if you watch my processing videos for tungsten and aluminum, which I'll put you a card up in the corner for, it'll explain why. But anyways, the main reason why you're probably going through this line is because you want to get to this, the tungsten crucible. It's needed to make smelters. It is one of the higher materials, so it doesn't melt down as easy. It can smelt most items in GT6 other than, you know, a few of them, like adamantium. But be careful with it, as it is one of the densest, almost the densest crucible there is. So it will take a butt ton to heat this thing up. I most definitely would not suggest it for general purpose smelting. But like I said, you do need it to craft yourself a smelter if you're wanting to make things like an alloy smelter, or if you're wanting to use it for your titanium and aluminum processing the way I do. Now, there is upgrades after that. Tantalum hafnium would be your next go-to. You will need tungsten before you can make the tantalum hafnium carbide, because it forms at a very high temperature. It's 4 tantalum, 1 hafnium, and 5 carbon. Be very careful when you're making this, because carbon's meltdown temperature or boil temperature is 4300, and this creates at 4263. So do not throw in any extra carbon, or throw the carbon in directly after, because if you're just a few degrees too much, that carbon will boil and kill you. I always throw the tantalum in first. Also, hafnium has a flammable and explosive tag. Do not worry about that. As far as putting it in the crucible, it is safe. Now, making a block of this and setting it on fire probably have some really fun effects. You might want to try that out. And then what I consider the best crucible in GregTech 6 is the carbon crucible. Now, the reason why I love the carbon crucible, even though its boil out point is 4750, where the tantalum hafnium carbide is 5328, is the density of this thing is only 1763, where the tungsten one is 14,000. The tantalum hafnium carbide is better at only 7,000, but the carbon one is only 1,700. So the tantalum hafnium carbide is half the density of the tungsten, but the carbon one is almost a third, maybe a little over a third less, or yeah, a third of the density of the THC one. But you will have to work to get this carbon one, because it's only made out of graphene plates. Graphene plates come from a nanoscale fabricator, and nanoscale fabricator is a fairly endgame material. As such, you have to go to the end to get the stuff to make the laser emitters for it. It's also IV components and the crystal processors and T6 circuits. It's very expensive, but it is definitely a good goal to set for yourself. Now, just to make sure we're on the same page here, there are large crucibles that are 3 by 3 by 3 structures. So you can make those as well, but they are very limited on the materials you can make out of them. You have a steel one, no ceramic, no quartz. You have a stainless steel one, an Invar one, a titanium one, tungsten steel, tungsten, THC, and then adamantium. Adamantium, by the way, being the god tier of crucibles with a weight of 10,388. But it doesn't melt down till 6,531. Can also handle acids. I personally do not know a reason to use it. I would personally stick with the carbon or the THC. By the way, large THC crucible, it's a really nice thing if you're doing a huge batch of something that you need to get done really quick. But remember, with the large crucibles, they do have a lower meltdown point than their single block variant. So you'll see the large THC melts down at 4689, where the single block is 5328. That is because of how much area is inside of it. The center would be hotter than what the edges would be. Therefore, it would burn a hole in the bottom of it. I'm guessing that's the idea Greg is going for here. So just keep that in mind. Also, with this being the only large crucibles we have, I would not suggest using them for upgrading because you really don't have any of the materials you need to do so. So, I think that is it for our upgrade crucible video. I hope I did not miss anything. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, send me a message on Discord, leave me a message in the comment. You all have a great day.